I was looking through our research for today, and I was immediately struck by this massive, almost comical paradox just staring back at me from the headlines.
Oh, yeah. I know exactly the one you mean.
Right. Because on one hand, you have these completely serious engineering plans being drawn up for like an artificial intelligence satellite.
Yeah.
And this thing requires as much electrical power as a small town just to operate in the vacuum of orbit.
Which is wild on its own.
Exactly. But then, right next to that headline, you have a major tech company whose entire stated mission is to build software tools that replace human workers.
Right.
And yet, their current corporate strategy is to double their own human workforce just to sell those very tools.
I mean, it is a profound structural contradiction, but it honestly tells you exactly where we are in the timeline right now.
Yeah, it really does.
We're basically watching the underlying architecture of a post-human economy being built, block by heavy block. And it's being built entirely by human hands that are working overtime to make themselves obsolete.
It's so weird to think about.
It is. We're in the final massive spike of human labor required to basically bootstrap the machine age.
That concept, bootstrapping the machine age, that is exactly what we are going to tear into today.
Absolutely.
But before we get into the sheer mind-bending scale of what that actually means, I really want to take a quick second to speak directly to you, the listener.
Yeah, this is important.
Because we are about to talk about an internet that is rapidly being overtaken by automated bots and synthetic data. But you're here. You are a real person actively choosing to step out of that algorithmic noise.
Right. You're choosing to be here.
Exactly. You're joining what we like to call the innermost loop of learners. And I just have to say a massive, genuine thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Because your attention, your choice to spend your time with us has literally just pushed this channel over our first 100 subscriber hump.
It is a genuine milestone, it really is.
It feels huge.
Building a tight-knit community of insanely curious people who actually want to understand the mechanics of the future rather than just, reading the panic headlines. That's exactly why we do this.
It really is. So if you want to keep escaping the noise, if you want to stay in this innermost loop of actual humans learning together, I need you to hit that subscribe button.
Do it.
Yeah. Tap the bell so that these deep dives are delivered directly to you. No algorithmic middlemen deciding whether or not you get to learn something new today.
We want to come straight to your feed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And please, give us a thumbs up. It legitimately helps us find other curious people just like you and bring them into the fold. So thank you.
And honestly, the timing couldn't be better because the velocity of the information we have to cover today, it really requires a community that is paying close attention.
Oh, for sure.
The ground is shifting incredibly fast right now.
Let's lay out the mission and get right to it then. Today's deep dive is custom tailored for all the fans of Dr. Alex Wissner-Gross out there.
Oh, yeah. The AWG fans are going to love this.
Especially those of you who've been following his incredible big picture contributions on Peter Diamandis' Moonshot series.
Right.
We are pulling our primary intelligence today directly from a dispatch on his Substack, The Innermost Loop, which has a very dedicated readership of over 11,000 subscribers.
That's a great publication.
It is. So specifically, we are diving deep into his post from March 22, 2026. It's titled TERAFAB, Musk's 1 terawatt step toward a galactic civilization.
And the overarching mission here is basically to map out a feedback loop.
Okay, break that down for us.
Well, we need to unpack how explosive, almost violently fast advancements in AI, hardware, software, and physical robotics, they're no longer operating in separate silos.
Right. They used to be totally distinct fields.
Exactly. But now they are colliding. They're creating a unified, self-accelerating loop that is fundamentally rewriting the rules of our economy.
And altering the physical surface of our planet, right?
Yeah, and very soon preparing to expand into our solar system.
Which is just, it sounds like sci-fi, but it's not. So reading through this dispatch, the first thing that just hits you like a freight train is the sheer physical scale of what is being proposed.
Oh, the scale is unbelievable.
We are talking about SpaceX and Tesla unveiling a joint, massive industrial project called TERAFAB. This is a facility located right near the Austin Gigafactory in Texas.
Right?
And its publicly stated goal is to produce over 1 terawatt of compute per year. Now, let me just ground us for a second. A terawatt is 1 trillion watts.
That is a lot of juice.
That is roughly the total electricity consumption of the entire human world at any given moment.
Yeah.
And they want to produce that much compute capacity annually.
To understand the gravity of that number, you really have to realize that compute is no longer just a metric for, how fast your laptop runs.
Right?
Compute is now heavy industry. We are watching the timeline compress in real time.
What do you mean by timeline compression?
Well, things that used to take human civilization decades, like discovering entirely new branches of mathematics, or fundamentally terraforming a coastline, they're now happening at machine speed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And to power machine speed across the globe, you need machine scale infrastructure. So aiming for a terawatt of compute isn't just an ambitious corporate goal, it's a physical declaration of intent to rebuild the world.
And the split of that terawatt is what really caught my eye. It is the most audacious part of the whole announcement.
The 80-20 split.
Yes. They are aiming for 80% of this compute to be dedicated to space and only 20% for Earth.
Which is just wild to think about.
SpaceX is literally calling this the next step towards becoming a galactic civilization. They're talking about fabricating 2-nanometer chips in 2 specific flavors.
Right, the edge silicon and the high power stuff.
Exactly. Edge silicon for Tesla's robotaxis and their Optimus humanoid robots.
Yeah.
And then these massive high-power chips for SpaceX and XAI.
And that's where the satellite comes in.
Yeah, this includes a plan for a 100-kilowatt mini AI data center satellite. Wait, let me make sure I'm grasping the scale of that. A 100-kilowatt satellite. How does that even work in orbit?
It is an engineering nightmare of the highest order, honestly.
I bet.
Historically, a very large traditional communication satellite might use like 10 to 15 kilowatts of power.
Okay.
And that's primarily just to beam radio signals back and forth to Earth. A 100-kilowatt data center satellite is practically a floating nuclear reactor in terms of its thermal output.
Right, because space is a vacuum. I think people forget that space isn't cold in the way a freezer is cold. It's empty.
Precisely. If you put a high-end gaming PC on your desk, it has fans.
Yeah.
Those fans blow air over the hot components. The air absorbs the heat and carries it away. That is convection.
But in space.
In the vacuum of space, there is no air. There's no convection.
That's funny, yeah.
So putting a 100-kilowatt supercomputer in orbit is like putting a massive blazing heater inside a perfectly sealed, vacuum-insulated Yeti thermos.
That sounds like a bomb.
It basically is. The heat has absolutely nowhere to go.
Yeah.
It just builds and builds until the silicon literally melts.
So how on Earth, or how, in space, I should say, do they plan to cool a 100-kilowatt AI data center?
Radiation. It is the only way to shed heat in a vacuum. You have to convert that thermal energy into infrared light and radiate it away into the blackness of space.
That sounds complicated.
Very. That requires massive, incredibly sophisticated thermal radiators, potentially the size of football fields, just to keep the chips from destroying themselves.
Wow. Football fields of radiators in orbit.
Yeah. To put an AI data center in orbit means you are fundamentally redesigning the physics of thermal management.
But why go through all that trouble?
The payoff is that you essentially have a supercomputer in space that can process vast amounts of sensor data locally, right there in orbit.
Oh, without beaming it down?
Exactly. You avoid having to beam petabytes of raw data all the way back down through the Earth's atmosphere for analysis. It is localized, orbital superintelligence.
Which brings me to an analogy I have been thinking about since reading the TERAFAB announcement.
Let's hear it.
Looking at this facility in Austin, it isn't just a factory. It is like a digital transcontinental railroad. But instead of laying tracks to connect the east and west coasts of America, it's laying the industrial tracks to build a Dyson swarm.
That is a great way to put it.
Tesla's declaration in this post, to understand the universe, you must explore the universe. I mean, it sounds like a grand philosophical slogan you'd see on a motivational poster.
Totally.
But Dr. Wissner-Gross points out that if you look at the math, it reads much more like a literal procurement order.
A procurement order that requires a radically new, unified way of building things.
Right.
The most critical, overlooked detail in the TERAFAB announcement isn't the terawatt goal itself, it's the recursive design loop.
The recursive loop, yeah. Explain that.
So they are taking the masks, the extreme ultraviolet lithography, the fabrication, the testing, and the iteration, and they are putting all of it inside a single building near Austin.
Okay, stop there, because I want to make sure I completely understand this. Why is putting it all in one building so revolutionary? Don't massive tech companies usually prefer to specialize? Like Apple designs the chip, but they outsource the actual building of it, right?
They do, and that is exactly the vulnerability they are trying to eliminate here.
How so?
The modern global semiconductor supply chain is a miracle of human cooperation, but it is incredibly fragile and absurdly dispersed geographically.
Right, it's all over the globe.
Right now, to build a cutting-edge chip, an engineer in California designs the architecture. But to physically print that chip at the nanometer scale, you need extreme ultraviolet, or EUV, lithography.
And what exactly is EUV? I hear that term thrown around a lot when we talk about chip bottlenecks, but I don't really get what it is.
Sure, EUV is essentially printing with a wavelength of light that is so incredibly short, so close to X-rays, that it gets absorbed by almost everything, including the air itself.
Wait, really? The air absorbs the light?
Yeah, you can't even use glass lenses to focus this light because the glass absorbs it.
So how do you focus it?
You have to use the flattest, most perfect mirrors ever created by humans, suspended in a complete vacuum, to bounce this light and etch patterns into silicon that are just a few atoms wide.
That's insane.
It's basically magic. And the only company on Earth that makes these EUV machines is ASML in the Netherlands.
Okay, so that's step 2.
Right. So you have designs in California, machines from the Netherlands, the actual physical fabrication happening at TSMC in Taiwan, and then the testing and packaging often happening in Malaysia.
So the lag time between an engineer saying, I have a better idea,
Yeah.
and actually holding that better chip is measured in months, maybe years, as things get shipped back and forth across ocean.
Exactly. It introduces massive supply chain lag.
But TERAFAB changes that.
By bringing 2-nanometer fabrication entirely under one roof in a recursive loop at TERAFAB, they are essentially allowing an artificial intelligence to design a new, optimized chip architecture, physically printed on the factory floor, test its electrical performance, and then iterate a new, better design in real time.
Oh, wow.
The AI is designing and building its own hardware upgrades without ever waiting for a cargo ship to cross the Pacific.
Well, that's wow.
It is the physical manifestation of an intelligence explosion. The AI thinks of a better brain for itself, and the factory downstairs just prints it that afternoon.
That is deeply unsettling, but logically brilliant.
It is.
But here is the massive counterweight to all of this heavy industry. We have a terawatt of physical power, millions of 2-nanometer chips, 100 kilowatt satellites with giant radiators.
Heavy, heavy stuff.
Exactly. All of this massive, heavy, energy-hungry hardware is just dead metal without the software to match. And the paradox we see in the dispatch is that as the hardware gets impossibly massive and centralized, the AI models running on them are actually getting lighter, hyper-efficient, and a whole lot stealthier.
It is the necessary counterbalance of the digital ecosystem. Hardware scales up physically and aggressively, but software scales up conceptually by becoming radically leaner.
Let's dig into the software side of the dispatch then. Dr. Wissner-Gross highlights a breakthrough from a Chinese AI lab called Evermind AI.
Yeah, the memory sparse attention.
Right. They just launched this technique, and the claim here is that it has less than a 9% degradation in reasoning performance when scaling a model from 16,000 tokens all the way up to 100 million tokens.
Which is a massive jump.
The source says it essentially decouples the AI's memory from its reasoning. But practically speaking, how does sparse attention differ from the way normal AI models process information?
To understand sparse attention, you really have to understand the fundamental bottleneck of how modern AI actually thinks.
Okay.
Older standard transformer models use what we call dense attention. This means that to understand the context of a prompt, the AI has to mathematically weigh every single word against every other word.
So if I give it a sentence like, the cat sat on the mat, it compares cat to thee, cat to sat, cat to on, and so forth.
Yes, it compares everything to everything.
That sounds exhausting.
Mathematically, this creates an n-squared problem. If you double the length of the document you give the AI, the computational cost doesn't just double, it quadruples.
Oh, well.
If you give a standard dense attention model an entire book to read, the computational cost squares with every page you add. The math becomes so overwhelmingly heavy that the model just grinds to a halt. It becomes impossibly slow.
So how does sparse attention fix that?
Sparse attention essentially teaches the AI to only look at relevant clusters of information, rather than comparing every word to every other word.
Like skimming.
Kind of. It creates a highly efficient indexing system. By decoupling the vast storage of memory from the active process of reasoning over it, Evermind AI is allowing the model to hold 100 million tokens in its working memory.
And how much is 100 million tokens, roughly?
It's roughly 75 million words.
Wow.
That is the equivalent of an entire specialized university library. And because it uses sparse attention, it can navigate and reason over that entire library simultaneously without its mathematical brain melting down.
That efficiency is what is driving the timeline down so aggressively. If the models don't require supercomputers just to hold context, they can act autonomously much faster. The dispatch notes that OpenAI is reportedly throwing everything they have into building a fully automated AI researcher. They are targeting an AI that can perform at the level of a human research intern by September of 2026.
That's right around the corner.
And they want a fully functional, autonomous multi-agent system up and running by 2028. And the tools used to build this software are compressing just as fast. The coding platform Cursor just shipped something called Composer 2, which they claim provides frontier-level software engineering at a fraction of the traditional cost.
We are witnessing the democratization of agents here.
Explain the difference between an agent and what we have now.
For the past few years, the public has thought of AI mostly as a chatbot. You know, a very smart oracle that you ask for a recipe or line of code and it gives you an answer.
Right.
An agent is fundamentally different. An agent is an autonomous worker. You don't ask it a question, you give it a long-term goal.
Like, build me a website.
Exactly. Build me a website that tracks local real estate prices. And the agent goes out, figures out the steps, writes the code, debugs its own errors, and executes the task all on its own.
Which brings us to the battlefield where all these agents are currently being deployed. The internet itself.
Poor internet.
Yeah. Cloudflare, which is basically the security guard for a huge portion of the web, is now publicly predicting that bot traffic will completely surpass human web traffic by 2027.
It's inevitable.
And to be clear, we aren't talking about the clunky, obvious spam bots of the 2010s that just clicked links repeatedly. A company called Browser Use recently reported that their autonomous agent was incredibly stealthy, successfully accessing websites, mimicking human behavior, and bypassing sophisticated bot detection security 81% of the time.
The evolutionary pressure this puts on the web is staggering.
I can imagine.
If bots are bypassing kappa TCHs and mimicking human cursor movements perfectly, the security paradigm just fails. But more importantly, as agents become the primary consumers of the internet, the architecture of the web changes. Websites will no longer need to be designed with pretty graphical interfaces for human eyes.
What will they look like?
They'll be designed as raw data pipelines for machine readability.
Okay, I have to challenge the premise of what that actually means for us, though.
Go for it.
If bots are surpassing human traffic by 2027, and they're learning to blend in perfectly, to the point where security systems literally cannot stop them from scraping data, isn't the internet about to become a dark forest?
The dark forest, yeah.
Just a hollowed out space where autonomous AIs are silently interacting with other AIs, scraping synthetic data generated by AIs to train future AIs. If websites aren't built for human eyes, who is the web actually for anymore?
That is the existential crisis of the digital age playing out right now.
It's terrifying.
The World Wide Web was conceived and built as a public square for human connection and human information retrieval, but it is rapidly mutating into an automated, invisible logistics network for machine intelligence. It feels dystopian if you look at the decay of the old web. But we have to look at what this democratization of intelligence is unlocking at the extreme edges of society. Because it's not just giant corporations running these bots.
You are talking about the Lobsters.
I am indeed talking about the Lobsters.
The dispatch mentions this fascinating cultural and technological phenomenon. An open source tool called OpenClaw has proven that highly capable, fully autonomous AI agents can be run locally on standard consumer-grade home computers.
Yes.
You no longer need to ping the massive billion-dollar server farms of OpenAI or Google to have an agent work for you. And in China, this localized capability has sparked a massive cultural craze where everyone from school kids to retirees are raising AI lobsters.
It is such a wild trend.
Let me stop you. What exactly is an AI lobster? Is it literally a simulation of a crustacean on your screen? Or is that just a colloquial term? Because the idea of a retiree raising a digital lobster is both hilarious and confusing.
It's a colloquial term for a specific type of localized, continuously learning pet agent. Think of it like a Tamagotchi from the 1990s. But instead of just pushing a button to feed it pixels, It has the localized reasoning capability of a PhD student.
Wow.
Because it runs locally on your machine, it learns your habits, it processes your local files, and it evolves its personality and capabilities daily based on its continuous interaction with you.
That's incredible.
It is a persistent, evolving digital companion that you raise. And the fact that this level of persistent intelligence can run on a desktop is a watershed moment for decentralized power.
And if we look at a higher-end academic breakthroughs mentioned in the dispatch, we see exactly what that decentralized power can achieve.
The math stuff.
Yeah, the Post notes that researchers recently built an agent that generated 665 entirely novel research problems in differential geometry.
Very novel problem.
Right? It didn't just solve existing math, it generated new math. Many of these geometric problems were completely unknown to the top human experts in the field.
And that leads directly to the observation from Terry Tao.
Oh yeah, the mathematician.
Yeah, Tao is widely considered one of the greatest living mathematicians on the planet. He publicly noted that because of these localized AI agents, even high school students can now make real frontier-level contributions to advanced mathematics.
That fundamentally breaks the mold of how discovery happens, doesn't it?
It is a profound shift in the very philosophy of science.
How so?
For thousands of years, human beings have used tools to do math. You use an abacus, you use a slide rule, you use a calculator, or you use a supercomputer to crunch the numbers you give it.
Right, but the human is steering.
The human mind was the sole engine of discovery. The tool just sped up the arithmetic. Now we have tools that are actively inventing math.
Wow.
The tool is exploring abstract conceptual spaces and bringing back geometric truths that human experts didn't even know existed.
That's just, wow.
When you have a high schooler solving frontier differential geometry in their bedroom because they have a highly optimized, localized AI agent running on their gaming PC, the monopoly on innovation just shatters.
Yeah, the gatekeepers are gone.
The ivy-covered walls of elite institutions and the closed doors of massive corporate labs no longer control the pace of discovery. It becomes decentralized, chaotic, and totally ubiquitous.
So we have this massive explosion of decentralized chaos playing out right now. Millions of stealthy bots bypassing security, high schoolers unlocking the universe's geometric secrets, retirees raising highly intelligent digital lobsters that evolve on their hard drives.
It's a lot.
But every action has an equal and opposite reaction. This decentralized software chaos is forcing massive structural reactions from the giant tech monopolies.
Of course it is.
If the internet is becoming a dark forest of agents, the tech giants have to consolidate the chaos to maintain their control. And doing that requires physical infrastructure on a scale that defies belief.
Decentralization of capability always forces centralization of infrastructure.
Always.
If everyone has a local agent, the companies that control the underlying networks and the broad consumer applications have to build insurmountable moats to keep their users trapped in their ecosystem.
Let's look at how that consolidation is happening at the application layer first. The dispatch notes that OpenAI is currently developing a desktop super app.
Yeah, this is huge.
They are taking ChatGPT, their Codex programming model, and a native web browser, and they are merging all of them into one single unified interface.
Yeah.
You never have to leave their ecosystem.
Right.
Meanwhile, WordPress, which powers a huge percentage of the internet, now allows AI agents to draft, edit, and publish posts directly to live websites, completely removing the human from the publish button.
Total automation.
But the most drastic shift by far is coming from Google Search.
Yeah.
Google is actively replacing the traditional list of news headlines and blue links with AI-generated text. They are fundamentally turning the world's search index into a generative layer.
And the shift from index to generation is the literal death of the hyperlink.
The death of the hyperlink. That's a heavy phrase.
A hyperlink was the atomic unit of the original web. It was a bridge from one human site to another. When search becomes generative, you don't cross the bridge. The AI just reads the destination and summarizes it for you.
I use an analogy for this that really highlights how jarring the shift is.
Let's hear it.
It is like we have spent the last 20 years going to a massive global library. You ask the librarian, which is Google, for information on a topic, and the librarian hands you 10 books that match your query.
Right.
Take the books, you open them, you see the author, you read the source material. Now, we're walking into that same library, and the librarian stops handing you books entirely.
Yep.
Instead, they just stand there, look you in the eye, and recite a customized, synthesized story based on all the books combined. You never actually see the original source. You never know what was omitted. You just get the generated narrative.
It is incredibly convenient for the user, but the computational mechanics required to do that are devastatingly heavy.
I bet.
To be that generative librarian, not just for you, but for billions of humans simultaneously, synthesizing reality on the fly the compute required is staggering.
Way more than just fetching a link.
Exactly. A traditional search query just looks up an index. A generative query requires active, heavy mathematical processing. This is where the tension between software consolidation and physical energy constraints reaches a breaking point.
Which perfectly explains the next massive piece of news in Dr. Wissner-Gross's dispatch. SoftBank, the massive tech investment conglomerate, is actively developing a $500 billion 10-gigawatt data center campus in Ohio.
500 billion, just let that number sit there.
And the location they chose is perfectly, almost poetically symbolic of this new era. It is being built on the site of a decommissioned uranium enrichment plant, and they are planning to power it with massive amounts of natural gas.
To really grasp the gravity of this, we have to look at the physics of a 10-gigawatt facility.
Please do, because 10 gigawatts sounds like Back to the Future.
Well, the term data center sounds clean and digital. It sounds like a warehouse of blinking lights. It is not.
Oh.
A standard, very large data center today, the kind that runs major cloud services, might require 100 or 200 megawatts of power. 10 gigawatts is the continuous power output of 10 full-scale nuclear reactors.
10 nuclear reactors, just for a data center.
SoftBank is literally taking the physical infrastructure of the nuclear age, a site designed to enrich uranium for weapons and reactors, and repurposing it to fuel the intelligence age.
That is wild.
They are building it there because the high-voltage transmission lines required to move that much raw power already exist from the Cold War era.
They're recycling Cold War infrastructure.
Exactly. Compute is no longer a subsector of the technology industry. It is heavy industrial baseload power. It is the new oil.
And just like oil, when a physical resource becomes the ultimate bottleneck to global power, black markets immediately emerge.
Naturally.
The dispatch points out a wild story. The co-founder of Supermicrocomputer was recently charged with illegally diverting $2.5 billion worth of advanced NVIDIA AI chips to China.
2.5 billion.
Geopolitics always, inevitably, follows energy and resources, doesn't it?
It does. If a terawatt of compute is the prerequisite for a galactic civilization, or even just basic economic dominance here on Earth, then the physical chips that process that compute become the most heavily guarded, highly sought after, and smuggled contraband on the planet.
Smuggling silicon.
The fact that a corporate co-founder of a major tech hardware company is allegedly acting like an international arms smuggler for silicon tells you everything you need to know about the actual stakes.
Yeah.
We have moved past software piracy. We are in the era of hardware smuggling.
So let's take stock of the physical footprint we are talking about. We have terawatts of power demands. We have billions of dollars of smuggled silicon crossing borders in the dark. We have 10-gigawatt data centers sitting on top of the ghosts of Cold War uranium plants.
It's a massive footprint.
All of this immense energy, all of this mathematical processing isn't just staying trapped inside the servers playing chess or generating text. It is starting to leak out.
Into the real world.
Exactly. It is moving from manipulating digital bits on a screen to manipulating actual physical atoms in the real world. It is moving into biology, into land management, into the very Earth itself.
This is the phase transition.
The phase transition.
It is the translation of abstract intelligence into physical mass.
Exactly. The source notes that China now fields 140 different humanoid robotics companies.
140.
Just think about the sheer volume of physical iteration that represents. 140 companies, all testing, breaking, and improving bipedal robots simultaneously.
It's an evolutionary arms race for robots.
But it is in the biological space where the real post-scarcity manipulation is happening. The Arc Institute recently introduced a model called BioReason Pro.
Oh, this is fascinating.
This system predicts the biological function for the 99.9% of proteins that currently lack any experimental annotations. Let's break that down, because I know AlphaFold was a huge deal for mapping protein shapes, but BioReason Pro seems to be taking it a massive step further.
To use a mechanical analogy, what AlphaFold did was monumental. It mapped the physical shape of a protein.
Okay.
It showed us what the key looks like. But knowing the shape of a key doesn't tell you what door it opens.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
BioReason Pro is figuring out the doors. When an AI can accurately predict the biological function of 99.9% of unannotated proteins we have never tested in a lab, You essentially possess the functional source code for all biological life.
Wow. Source code for life.
You move from observation to active engineering. You can design custom enzymes specifically built to digest ocean plastics, or custom antibodies that bind to highly specific, previously incurable disease vectors.
And speaking of biology, the dispatch highlights another development that feels much darker, or at least pulled straight from a sci-fi novel.
The brain freezing.
Yeah. A company called Nectone has successfully preserved a pig's brain with minimal structural damage, and they are now officially offering this preservation technique to terminally ill human patients.
It's controversial, to say the least.
We are talking about literal brain freezing, with the explicit hope of future digital upload or biological resurrection.
It is the ultimate expression of the Silicon Valley engineering mindset applied to the problem of human mortality.
That's intense.
Nectome and BioReason Pro are structurally linked, though. They are two sides of the exact same coin.
How so?
Well, one is mapping the fundamental building blocks of life in order to master and manipulate it, and the other is attempting to conquer death by treating the human brain like a physical hard drive that can simply be put in cold storage until the software is ready to read it.
Like putting it on a shelf.
It is the belief that biology is just hardware, and hardware can be preserved.
But the physical manipulation isn't just limited to human biology and robots.
Yeah.
AI is actively optimizing livestock and physical geography right now.
Oh, cows!
Yes, the cows. The dispatch mentions a company called Halter, which has developed AI-powered solar collars for cattle. The company is valued at $2 billion.
Incredible.
Ranchers can now herd their massive cattle operations entirely via localized vibrations from a smartphone app. How exactly does vibrating a collar replace a sheepdog or a fence without just terrifying the cow?
It relies on operant conditioning, driven by an incredibly complex back-end AI model.
Okay, so it's not just a random buzzer.
No, the system isn't just buzzing randomly. The macro AI model tracks the exact GPS location of every single cow, monitors the health of the pasture grass via satellite, and decides exactly where the herd needs to graze for optimal ecological and economic yield.
So the AI is the rancher.
Exactly. When a cow steps too far in the wrong direction, the collar provides a highly specific sequence of auditory tones, followed by a gentle vibration.
And the cow just learns what that means.
Over a very short period, the cow learns that the sound predicts the vibration, and the vibration predicts an invisible boundary. It is a localized haptic feedback loop, perfectly replacing physical fences and human labor with dynamic, algorithmically controlled boundaries.
That is fascinating. But if herding cattle with algorithms sounds wild, the next example is terraforming on a literal geological scale.
Oh, coastal assembly.
Yes, a company called Coastal Assembly. And I want to explicitly note here, just as the source material does for transparency, that Dr. Wissner-Gross has a financial interest in this company.
Right.
But Coastal Assembly literally grew over 90 feet of brand new beach in just 6 months at a resort in the Maldives.
90 feet in 6 months.
They didn't dredge the sand and dump it. They used AI-optimized underwater structures to redirect the natural ocean sediment. I need you to explain the mechanics of how an AI outsmarts an ocean current.
It comes down to high-fidelity fluid dynamics modeling. Ocean currents are incredibly chaotic, non-linear systems.
It's super unpredictable.
Right. For a human engineer to calculate exactly how millions of tons of water and suspended sand will react to an obstacle over 6 months is nearly impossible.
Yeah, there's too many variables.
But machine intelligence can model that chaos perfectly. Coastal Assembly uses AI to design highly specific, mathematically optimized physical structures.
Okay.
When they drop these structures into the water, they alter the flow of the current in such a precise way that the ocean naturally loses velocity right at the shoreline, dropping its suspended sand exactly where the AI wants it.
That's brilliant.
They are weaponizing the ocean's own energy to deposit the land.
I really have to push back on the sheer breadth of all this, though.
Okay, what are you thinking?
We are talking about predicting every protein function in existence, freezing terminally ill human brains, vibrating cow collars to gamify agricultural ranching, and literally outsmarting fluid dynamics to grow land masses out of the ocean.
Yeah.
Are we even treating AI as a software tool anymore? Or do we need to fundamentally start viewing it as a new physical force of nature?
That is the exact paradigm shift the dispatch is highlighting.
Because it feels way bigger than software.
When a synthetic intelligence can perfectly herd biological livestock across hundreds of miles, perfectly model sediment deposits against complex ocean currents, and map the microscopic function of proteins, the label of software is entirely inadequate.
Yeah, it doesn't fit.
It becomes a hyper-capable physical actor. And the realization we have to grapple with is that the exact same superintelligence that can perfectly herd a cow or perfectly model ocean sediment can also be used to perfectly target a kinetic missile
Oh.
or dynamically disrupt a rival nation's economy. Intelligence is substrate neutral. It applies its optimization to whatever system you point it at.
Which brings us directly to the sharp edge of this sword. Warfare, geopolitics, and macroeconomic velocity.
The heavy stuff.
The dispatch explicitly notes that Palantir's Maven AI, which has already carried out thousands of targeted intelligence strikes against Iranian assets, is now officially becoming a permanent program of record across the United States military.
It is the integration of machine speed directly into the kill chain.
That's a terrifying phrase, the kill chain.
The military advantage of AI isn't just accuracy, it is latency. It removes the human bottleneck of hesitation, data gathering, and manual miscalculation in targeting.
Which makes sense from a tactical standpoint.
But the structural consequence is that modern wars will increasingly be fought at a computational speed that human diplomats can no longer negotiate or de-escalate in real time.
And yet, with all this sophisticated AI weaponry and multi-billion-dollar intelligence software, the vulnerabilities are incredibly mundane.
They really are.
This is the contrast that blows my mind. The source mentions that the French newspaper Le Monde managed to locate the Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier, France's nuclear-powered flagship, one of the most protected assets on the planet in real time.
Oh, this story is wild.
How did they do it? Because a single sailor aboard the ship was logging their daily jogs on a Strava fitness profile.
Just a guy going for a run.
I just picture this sailor going for a run on the deck of a billion-dollar stealth carrier, and their $20 wristband is silently pinging an open-source satellite network, completely broadcasting the ship's location to anyone with an internet connection.
It perfectly highlights the inescapable asymmetry of the digital age.
Asymmetry is a great word for it.
You can spend decades and billions of euros designing a nuclear aircraft carrier. You can shroud it in the most advanced radar-evading technology the military-industrial complex can produce.
Yeah.
And the localized data exhaust from a consumer fitness tracker completely undoes it. Pervasive ambient data cuts both ways.
It really does.
The exact same omniscient sensor network that allows AI models to learn and function also makes traditional military secrecy nearly impossible to maintain.
And that pervasive disruption is tearing through the domestic economy just as violently as it is military doctrine. The exact phrase Dr. Wissner-Gross uses in the dispatch is that the economy is metabolizing disruption at machine speed.
Metabolizing disruption.
Let's look at the sheer irony of OpenAI's current corporate strategy to see this metabolism at work. They're currently planning to nearly double their headcount to 8,000 human employees.
Wow.
Why? To hire the massive sales and deployment teams needed to integrate and sell the very enterprise tools that are explicitly designed to replace human workers.
It is the final massive spike in human labor required to install the automated systems that will subsequently eliminate that labor.
Wow.
It is the scaffolding required to build the machine.
Meanwhile, capital is just routing around anything that attempts to slow it down. The dispatch notes that Massachusetts passed a millionaire surtax, attempting to capture more revenue.
And we know how that went.
Residents immediately fled, taking $4.2 billion in income with them across state lines. Capital is voting with its feet faster than at any point in history.
Absolutely.
And down at the retail level, Walmart has patented machine learning-driven dynamic pricing. So the price of a loaf of bread or a gallon of milk might change hour by hour, store by store, based on microweather patterns, real-time supply chain bottlenecks, and localized demand, all managed invisibly by an algorithm.
What we are observing is the financial system and the retail economy behaving like a fluid intelligence.
A fluid intelligence.
Yeah. When a geographic region like Massachusetts attempts to apply a rigid 20th century tax model to 21st century digital wealth, the wealth simply reroutes. It behaves structurally like water flowing around a rock.
That makes a lot of sense.
The velocity of capital and the dynamic calculation of prices are moving faster than human regulators can draft legislation.
Which brings us to the global regulatory clash over who actually gets to control this intelligence. You have Europe, which possesses incredible talent and homegrown AI labs like Mistral. But they lack the massive hyperscale compute infrastructure of the US or China. So what is their structural regulatory strategy? They are attempting to build a regulatory framework to tax the output.
Content levy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mistro's own CEO has proposed that AI companies should pay a content levy, a tax, on the generative output of the models.
From a structural economic perspective, it is a strategy to monetize the output of the machine when your region doesn't physically control the underlying hardware of the machine itself.
That's a clever workaround.
The European Union is attempting to build a regulatory moat to protect their economic interests. But, as we discussed with the stealth bots earlier, the digital nature of these agents often allows them to bypass geographic and regulatory moats entirely.
And domestically in the U.S., the approach is entirely different. The White House recently released a national AI policy framework.
Right, the federal push.
The explicit structural goal of that framework is to preempt a 50-state patchwork of conflicting laws, betting that unified federal rules will allow domestic companies to outrun fragmented international regulations.
It's a speed run.
But honestly, the craziest, most disruptive economic shift isn't happening at the White House or in the halls of the EU. It's happening quietly inside the tech companies themselves. We have to talk about tokenmaxxing.
Oh, tokenmaxxing. It is arguably the most surreal, paradigm-shifting development in the entire dispatch.
The dispatch details how, at massive companies like Meta and OpenAI, human employees are now competing on internal tokenmaxxing leaderboards.
Leaderboards for outsourcing your job.
Exactly. These high-paid tech workers are spending thousands of dollars a month out of their own personal pockets to purchase compute power and run AI agents that automate their own jobs.
It's wild.
They're outsourcing their own labor to the machine. And Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, wants to take this concept even further. He is publicly proposing AI tokens as an actual, formal salary supplement.
Jensen is always looking ahead.
He's envisioning a future where companies have hundreds of thousands of NVIDIA AI agents working directly alongside a much smaller human workforce. I really need you to explain the economic theory here, because this breaks my understanding of what a job actually is.
It fundamentally redefines the concept of a job from the ground up.
How so?
Well, during the Industrial Revolution, we standardized the hourly wage. You were paid for your physical time on a factory floor.
Right.
In the 20th century, we shifted to the salaried knowledge worker. You were paid for your expertise and cognitive output regardless of hours.
Okay, that makes sense.
Tokenmaxxing is the next evolution. If a software engineer at Meta is outsourcing 90% of their coding, emailing, and systems design to an autonomous AI agent,
Right.
and they are literally paying for that agent's compute out of their own pocket, what is Meta actually paying the human for?
They are paying for the prompt engineering or the final quality control.
Exactly. The human has simply become a middleman, an API interface between the high-level corporate objective and the machine intelligence that physically executes the work.
The human sets the goal, the machine does the labor.
When Jensen Huang suggests paying people in AI tokens, he is formally acknowledging a brutal economic truth. The fundamental unit of human labor is no longer time, and it is no longer physical effort.
So what is it?
The new fundamental unit of economic labor is compute. He is saying, I won't pay you entirely in dollars for your time. I will pay you in access to the terawatts of intelligence that actually do the work.
Compute is the currency. Compute is the workforce. Compute is the military infrastructure.
It's everything.
Which brings us all the way back to the opening hook of this entire deep dive and the sheer physical scale of the TERAFAB project in Texas.
Full circle.
All of these earthly disruptions we just covered. The dynamic pricing algorithms at Walmart, the tokenmaxxing tech workers automating their own salaries, the high schoolers discovering completely new branches of mathematics, the 10-gigawatt data centers sitting on top of Cold War uranium plants.
Yeah, all of it.
All of this chaotic energy is ultimately feeding back into the very first thing we discussed.
Yeah.
The unified pursuit of galactic expansion.
Everything happening right now on the surface of the Earth is just a stepping stone. It is the scaffolding.
I want to read Dr. Wissner-Gross's final, profound sign-off from the dispatch exactly as it's written, because it ties this entire monstrous, self-accelerating feedback loop together perfectly.
Please do.
He writes, every token consumed down here is a down payment on the terawatt up there.
And that leaves us with a deeply provocative thought for the listener to mull over as they log off today. If compute is rapidly becoming our new currency, our new autonomous workforce, and our new military infrastructure, at what specific point does humanity stop being the master of the intelligence and start becoming just another physical resource required to keep those terawatts flowing?
That is exactly the kind of question that is going to keep me staring at the ceiling tonight.
Same here.
Are we the grand architects building the Dyson swarm, or have we already been relegated to being the biological starter motor for the machine that builds the Dyson swarm?
It's a fine line.
We started today talking about a single AI satellite that uses as much thermal power as a small town, and human workers furiously building their own replacements to sell. The X-ray on our global economy is definitely showing a massive structural break, but what grows back in its place isn't going to look human at all.
No, it will look exactly like a terawatt.
Unbelievable. Well, as always, our outro music today is by Rainbow, which is undeniably the best band in the universe.
Absolutely.
For those who don't know, Rainbow is comprised of 6 female android artists in residence based in Ba Viet, Cambodia.
They're amazing.
Today's song is an amazing track called Alsa, which translates to Green Vision. And it is vital to know that all of Rainbow's finished songs are performed live for the Innermost Loop discussion by the virtual band's creator using the 4B4KU5, that is the Abacus platform.
Such a cool platform.
And I have to say, the slogan for the Abacus platform is perfectly, chillingly fitting for everything we discussed in today's deep dive. Human performance in the age of AI, reclaiming your humanity from the algorithm.
It is a very necessary reclamation project, now more than ever.
Absolutely. I will include more detailed information on today's song and on the Abacus platform in the video description below. And to you, the listener, thank you. Thank you for stepping out of the algorithmic noise and into the innermost loop with us today. Until next time.
No te lo miento, el udor pasa que yo. Yeah. Speak about him and they more like what do. Yeah. I feel dancing like additive, I sit the blue, parela. On peut du fait qu'on s'auto pas que nana. T'as pas parlé like that in the top, c'est long good, parela. Et quand you play to my fresh pog in that parela. I feel the beat down, me. Take to the beat, take it. Take to the beat down, where boy ya ain't me. Take it, be what I'm with, so pick and let's get now. I'm at the fire, let's get the my God. I'm facing now. Porque no me dan cela, chansen se da. Rap de lo girl, vala, bin fatena. What the new world, vala, I know she who now. That panela never been busted for you, I lay at it. No money, get the boss at something, Mayala. The panela never been posted of you, I lay at it. That body talking like a hot and that guy. I got to la big down, this down, big. See to the beat, big to the fish. Big girl, I've been down, I'm tight, yeah, we need. Pick it, they want them, but you pick a look now. Papa, get the pen, this is fine, like that. Get the pen, this is fine, like that. You're falling up, you're falling up, baby. Tu sarima, jarira. Tu sarima, jarira. A me sta pena boca gacha manuplata. Non ci sta piena ma non piano la piatta. Una badana, sai che puttana. Della vinanna, desano nanna. Sara lottata, rendono una bandana. The mag down by the mind that you got that you heard. I'm not fire with the tickets if you don't like how. I'm not fire with the tickets if you don't like how. The foreigner, the foreigner, the foreigner, the foreigner,